Welcome to this broadcast. My name is Mark Johnston, and I'm joined by Anna Leva, who is not only the Director of the Office of Special Needs Assistance Programs, but also the Acting Deputy Assistant Secretary. The presentation we're going to be providing today is on the impact of this year's budget level as it relates to the 2012 Continuum of Care competition. On this slide, we wanted to really emphasize several different things, and as an overlay, I wanted to emphasize to you that the purpose of this presentation is to help stakeholders understand the budget environment that we're all living in and the impact that that's going to have on this year's particular competition. Because of this tight budget this year, HUD needs continuums to prioritize projects locally in case there's not enough funding to go around. The reason that we're doing this is to be as transparent as we possibly can in this presentation so that you'll have all the facts needed to make informed decisions. It's the first time that I think I can ever remember since we began the Continuum of Care competitions back in 1994 where we may in fact not have enough funding to provide funding for all renewals this year. And it's particularly challenging this year because we've had flat level budgets, although we have increasing demands. And that, as you know, becomes because of increased costs in fair market rents, as well as projects that are being renewed for the first time. So even though we have a flat level of funding, it's actually, in a sense, a reduction or a cut in funding given these increased demands. We're going to be discussing tiering and the ranking of projects. We're also going to be articulating our selection priorities in order to achieve the goals in the Federal Strategic Plan. We have this year $1.61 billion available through the appropriation for the competition. However, based on this year's Continuum of Care registration process, the annual renewal demand for this year is more than that. It's $1.67 billion. Historically, I want to add, though, that we have experienced that the registration levels are somewhat higher than the actual eventual awarded amounts. So we're hoping that this $1.67 billion is somewhat overstated, that there are some projects, for instance, that are not actually up for renewal this year, and that number may be somewhat lower. Nonetheless, the amount appropriated is not enough to fund all renewals this year. In addition to having the $1.61 billion, we're also actively seeking recaptured funds throughout this process and before we make awards to make up some of this difference. I'd like to discuss three specific impacts of this lower budget level. The first is Continuum of Care planning dollars. We, for years, as we were developing the Continuum of Care program through legislation, expressly wanted to have funds available for planning. We know that it's been difficult, frankly, for years to have an unfunded mandate of planning your Continuum of Care strategically in making smart decisions. And so we were thrilled when the Hearth Act had the provision of planning grants. The law allows for more funding to be used, but given that our limited funding in this year is so limited that Continuum of Care planning will be at 1.25% of the final pro rata need amount for your continuum. So that's one thing to be considering, is that you're going to have a lower planning grant amount than you were hoping to have. Second of all, project administration. As you know, in the supportive housing program, since the beginning of the program, we've been limited for 5% admin. That was another express provision we wanted to insert into the Hearth Act, and were successful. So in the Hearth Act and in the Continuum of Care regulations, it allows for up to 10% of project admin to be on top of the actual grant. So for 2012, we will only be able to be funding up to 7% of project admin funds. But I want to highlight how significant even that increase is, because that means on top of an existing Shelter Plus Care grant that will now be renewed under Continuum of Care, there will be an additional 7% for admin. And on top of an SHP grant, there will be an additional up to 2% beyond the 5% that's been received in the past. So these are net increases of admin. We also will allow for projects to receive more up to the 10%. But to do that, anything between 7 and 10% must be taken out of the existing project by looking at and identifying specific line items where you would take that from and provide us a sound justification. The third topic is tiering. And for those of you like Ann and myself who went through this process 10 years ago with the concept of tiering, this is very, very different. We're not looking at breaking up individual renewal projects, but the concept of tiering will be a key part of the competition, and frankly, that's what we're going to spend the rest of the time on in this presentation. As I've mentioned, the amount available for this competition may well not be enough to fund all renewals in the competition. Therefore, HUD wants continuums to prioritize which projects they really need to be funded, new or renewals, or planning. Because of this, Continuum of Cares will be ranking projects into 2 tiers, which are financial thresholds. Tier 1 represents the annual renewal demand for Continuum, less 3.5%. You may ask, why did we come up with that level? And that's simply the difference between what we have available in the competition and what we have available through the appropriation. And we shared this equally across all continuums of care. And as a result, every continuum of care in this Tier 1 will have 3.5% less than funding all of their one-year renewals. Appendix A of the NOFA has the Tier 1 amount for each continuum of care, so you'll all be able to readily see what that exact amount is. HUD expects to have enough money to fully fund the Tier 1 projects. In terms of Tier 2, this is the Continuum of Care's final pro rata need, plus any amounts for Continuum of Care planning and bonus. So after ranking your Tier 1 projects, Continuum of Cares should rank the rest of their projects in Tier 2. HUD anticipates that we'll be able to fund some, but almost certainly not all of the projects in Tier 2.
So Mark, if I might add a couple of items to this. Our grantees or continuums of care might actually be looking for a form in eSNAPS that says Tier 1 and Tier 2. There is no form in eSNAPS that actually indicates what the tiers are. The tiers are financial thresholds as indicated in the attachment to the NOFA. And really, it's just a way for you to understand where we might make cuts across the country if we had to. So I just wanted to be clear with folks that you're not going to be seeing an actual form in eSNAPS that says Tier 1 and a form that says Tier 2.
That's very helpful. Thanks, Ann. Projects in Tier 1 should be high-performing projects, high-priority projects that actually specifically meet the needs and gaps identified by the Continuum of Care. Continuums can place any type of project within this tier, whether that be new, renewal, or planning. In order to be fully protected, however, renewals must be placed in this tier. HUD cannot guarantee funding renewals placed in Tier 2. HUD strongly encourages communities to place their high-performing and high-priority projects in this tier. So I want to now move to what's going on in Tier 2 as you think this through. Projects in Tier 2 still need to be projects that are specifically meeting the needs and gaps identified by your continuum of care. They ideally really should be high-performing and high-priority projects, but we recognize, given what's been identified for Tier 2 projects, they will be somewhat lower performing perhaps, or somewhat lower priority projects. They can still be new, renewal, or planning projects. HUD will, however, first select renewal projects if it has enough money to fund projects in Tier 2, because we certainly value the infrastructure of existing projects, and we recognize in the Hearth Act that there is a strong preference to help ensure the funding of renewals. Any project that does not perform well consistently really should be reallocated to a new project. And as you know, we've talked about reallocation for a number of years. Many continuums have taken that on and reallocated projects that perhaps were high performing for a while, but really outlived the purpose of those grants, or were frankly not performing as well, and have been able to reallocate them as new projects. And so we'd certainly highly recommend that for projects across all continuums this year, given this particular situation we've got with the funding levels. And continuums must rank all of the projects. And for those old hands, you know, we used to do this every year, and we've really gotten away from that, largely relying on renewals, but we must be ranking all projects, both new and renewal. And this is a change from what we've published in the Continuum of Care registration notice. This is because, frankly, without enough funding, we have to make explicit decisions at the local level in terms of what projects would be funded. Ranking begins with number one. So the first project you want funded should be identified as number one and would continue through the total number of project applications that your Continuum of Care will be submitting with its consolidated application. For example, if a Continuum of Care has 15 projects, the numbers would go 1 through 15 for those projects. A Continuum of Care should not rank rejected projects. So during the course of your process locally in determining which projects should be on the priority list and which ones would not be, you would not be ranking projects that you're not expecting or proposing to be funded. So I now want to discuss putting ranking and tiering together. So ranking at the tier 1, as I mentioned, starts with project 1 and includes numbers up to the number of projects where your cumulative budgets add up to the Continuum of Care's annual renewal demand less 3.5%. For some continuums, this is only going to be a couple of projects, and for others it will be dozens, based simply because the pro rata need is so different across this country within continuums. Ranking in Tier 2 starts with the project after, wherever the Continuum of Care left off, add in Tier 1, and ends at the number of projects that fit within the Continuum of Care's final pro rata need amount, plus approved levels for the bonus or for planning. For example, if a Continuum of Care had 15 projects in Tier 1, then Tier 2 ranking would begin with the 16th project. In the same example, if the Continuum of Care had 30 total projects that fit within the final pro rata need, and having the addition of the bonus and the Continuum of Care planning dollars, then the ranking in Tier 2 would go from Project 16 through Project 30.
Thank you so much, Mark. Again, before I get started on the example, I want to remind everybody in our audience today that the reason that we're providing you this level of detail is because we're in a situation that we have not seen before in the Continuum of Care competition, as Mark indicated. And we want you all to have the best information possible so that you can make strategic and good decisions at the local level. This is a complicated process, and it's possible that you could damage your continuum if you don't pay close attention to the instruction that we're providing you. In the long run, it's going to be a good process, I think, for every continuum in order to move forward to make strategic decisions. So the easiest way that we saw to ensure that continuums and grantees really understand how to implement this process at the local level is to walk you through an example. Again, please pay close attention to all of this information. And again, as Mark indicated, this is not similar to tiering in the past. I am one of the folks who was working on the Continuum of Care competition when we did tiering in the past. This is not similar to that. This is really just a way for HUD to get across that we have some financial constraints that we have not had in the past before. So let's walk through this slide. This is a balance of state Continuum of Care. Their approved annual renewal demand in eSNAPs through the 2012 registration process was $300,000. Their approved preliminary pro rata need amount in registration was $350,000. So that means that their approved final pro rata need amount is $350,000 because the amount of renewals for 1 year is less than their preliminary pro rata need amount. Their approved planning amount is $10,000, and that's because we set a minimum threshold of $10,000 for planning. And their approved permanent housing bonus amount is $35,000. All of these amounts are indicated on the screens in eSNAPs during the registration process. So the amount for Tier 1, again, the financial constraint that's indicated in the appendix to the NOFA, is $289,500. That is $300,000, which is their renewal demand, minus 3.5%. The amount that their Tier 2 projects can go up to is $395,000. That's their final pro rata need, plus planning, plus their bonus. So those are the two financial constraints that this continuum of care is working with. $289,500 for Tier 1, $395,000 for Tier 2. So let's actually walk through what this balance of state has decided to put in Tier 1 and why these are either good ideas or not good ideas. You can see that they ranked renewals 1, 2, and 3, and then in the fourth slot, they've placed a new permanent housing project that is being funded through their preliminary pro rata need amount at $20,000. Number 5 shows a reallocated project, 6 is a renewal, 7 is a renewal, and number 8 is their planning grant. And at that point, they're reaching $280,000. On this screen, you can see what we're trying to show you here is the rank number, the name of the project, the actual budget amount for that project, and then sort of a running total on the right side so you can see how much each project adds to the bottom line. So the Tier 1 limit is being placed at after number 8, between number 8 and number 9, because the Tier 1 limit is $289,500, and number 8 gets you to $280,000. A project is either wholly in Tier 1 or wholly in Tier 2. There's no, again, for those of you who have done this for a long time, there's no straddling the line here. A project is either in Tier 1 or in Tier 2 and isn't crossing the line. Moving on to the rest of Tier 2, you can see that the number 9 project, which is the first project in Tier 2, is a reallocated project. Then we have a PH bonus project, a renewal in slot 11. We're going to talk about that in a moment. And then 2 new projects that are funded out of PPRN as number 12 and number 13. So the total is $395,000. What this slide does is provide you with a little bit of information. I'm going to walk through why I think that this is not necessarily the best strategy for this continuum. My first concern here is that they put a new project in at number 4 that is funded at, out of their preliminary pro rata need amount. The reason I think that this is a risky strategy is because in order to get that new project, the Continuum of Care must score at least 97 points out of 130 points that are available through the competition. That's a 75%. So they're actually putting a project that's a renewal at risk, that's lower down in slot number 11, by putting that new project up in number 4, but that new project is not guaranteed. It is subject to scoring. So I think that that's one part that's concerning to me. If I was the Continuum of Care, I'm not sure that I would make that decision necessarily. The other note that I would make is at number 11, that renewal is at significant risk. As Mark indicated, everything in Tier 1, we know Tier 1 nationally adds up to $1.61 billion, which is the amount of money we have in the FY 2012 appropriation for this program. So those are relatively safe. And I think it's incredibly important for our continuums of care to really prioritize the projects that are the most important, most high-performing in your community, and keep those safe within the Tier 1 ranking order. Tiering should not be a substitution for reallocation. And I think that it's important to look at what is the project that's in slot number 11. That's a renewal that is at significant risk. If that renewal is so bad that you would want to put it below other projects, that far below other projects in Tier 2, really what the community should be doing is looking at reallocating that project. So not only do communities really have to understand the tiering process, but you have to understand, and we went to great lengths within the NOFA to very clearly lay out not only the scoring criteria in a different way than we have in the past, but also the order in which we select projects nationally. So you have to understand both the tiering and the selection in order to really make the best decisions for your community. As Mark mentioned, the rationale for having an order for the types of projects that we will fund really has to do with what our priorities are nationally. Obviously, we always have a priority on funding renewal projects that are high performing and that are doing well because people are actually living in those projects, and those are a priority for us. Reallocation, again, using the tools that the Hearth Act gives you in order to better use your resources. If a community is reallocating a project that maybe was not so high performing into a new project, we want to ensure that those are protected. The third order that we will go to is planning projects. Again, planning projects are important to us because we don't actually think that communities can adequately plan for the types of requirements that the Hearth Act has brought us and that the Continuum of Care regulation reflects without having some resources to do some planning. The fourth series of projects that we will fund in order are the permanent housing bonus projects in what we are calling extreme high need communities. Those are communities that meet the criteria that are reflected in the NOFA, and permanent housing bonus projects this year are projects that are permanent supportive housing, serving people who are chronically homeless, both individuals and families. Obviously, that is reflective of our goals in the federal strategic plan to prevent and end homelessness, to end chronic homelessness by 2015. And then you can see the rest of the order, PH bonus projects, new permanent housing projects, coordinated assessment projects, HMIS, transitional housing, and any new SSO projects. I would caution continuums really about putting new transitional housing or new SSO projects into Tier 1. I don't think that that's a particularly smart use of resources, but this is the order that we will follow, going in rank order from the top scoring continuum to the lowest scoring continuum until we run out of money. Again, we do think that we have enough funding to fund all of Tier 1, but I do want to emphasize to continuums and grantees, all new projects in Tier 1 need to meet the minimum score and pass threshold criteria. We have had continuums in the past that put in a reallocated project or a new project very high on their priority list, but the project does not meet our baseline threshold criteria and is therefore rejected. So that's another thing that you all need to consider. And again, a continuum really needs to be strategic about what projects are the most important to be protected within their community. What this chart shows you is that within Tier 1, it will show you how we will actually pick up projects nationally. So because we go from top to bottom by Continuum of Care score nationally until we run out of money, you can see that the Continuum of Care ranking is on the left, but how we would actually pick them up is on the right. So renewal 1, 2, and 3 will actually be picked up in this particular scenario as first, second, and third projects. Then we would skip down to project number 6, which is their next renewal, and project number 7, which is the next renewal after that. Then we would go back to the top of the list nationally and look for all reallocated projects. So the reallocated project that is in slot 5 would actually be picked up as number 6 in our selection priority, and the planning grant that is in slot 8 would be picked up as number 7. The last project to be picked up in this particular scenario would be the one that is ranked number 4 because it is a new permanent housing project and the Continuum of Care must score at least 97 out of 130 points to receive funding for that. Tier 2 is almost more important than Tier 1. Tier 1 is really what a continuum wants to be sure, 100% sure that they protect. But Tier 2 is where most of the competition is actually going to happen. We know that we will likely not have enough money to fund all the way through Tier 2 for all communities. So again, we will, within rank order established by the continuum and by Continuum of Care score, select the Tier 2 projects in the same order that we would have selected Tier 1 projects. That is, renewals first, then reallocated projects, then planning projects, then PH bonus projects in extreme high need communities, and so on. So you can see that a high scoring, let's say a continuum that scores 130 points, which is a perfect score in this year's competition, might actually get more projects than a continuum that scores 98 points. So because we're going from the top scoring continuum to the bottom scoring continuum for each of these selection criteria. So again, I know that this sounds complicated. It is incredibly important for continuums to read the NOFA in full and in detail, and please review any kind of technical assistance materials we put out there. And again, here is the same kind of chart for Tier 2. You can see how the Continuum of Care ranked these specific projects on the left, and on the right, how we would actually pick them up. So the project that's currently Continuum of Care ranked at number 11 would actually be picked up first in this particular scenario because renewals are important to us. If that renewal is so bad that it should not be funded, it really should have been reallocated and placed higher on the list. Again, it's important for all of our continuums and our grantees to continue to be up to date on information around the Continuum of Care program, looking at the interim rule and the technical assistance materials that can be found on the Homelessness Resource Exchange at www.hudhre.info/CoC. And you can submit questions to HUD's Homelessness Resource Exchange virtual help desk at the location here. You can go to the HRE, it's on the front page. But please, we ask all of our communities and all of our grantees to please read the regulations and the training materials as well as the NOFA before you submit your question to the virtual help desk, because we do have a high volume of questions and we don't want to spend a lot of time on very simple answers that could have been easily looked up within some of the resources we have online. I hope that this presentation was helpful to you today. I thank Mark Johnston for doing this with me. It is a tough discussion to have, especially given that we know that financially it's going to become tighter and in the next couple of years. So thanks for doing this with me today, Mark.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
And please submit your questions to the help desk.
Thank you.